Welcome to Routing for Success, the show where we interview today's top logistics professionals, providing them a platform to share their stories and best practices. I'm your host, Emily Blair.
And I'm your host, Jake Hirsch. Today we interview EJ, our first driver on the Routing for Success podcast. EJ has been a FedEx driver for over 20 years and can put out over 260 stops a day. In this episode, we go over all things drivers, including driver pay, driver retention, and what shoes are the best for crushing 15,000 steps a day. You're not going to want to miss this one.
This episode is brought to you by AP Equipment Financing. AP Equipment Financing can bring you the best deals on step vans, panel vans, cutaways, and more, deliver them straight to your facility, and finance them with low monthly installment options. Click the link in the description to this episode or visit apfinancing.com.
All right, today we are here with EJ. EJ has been a driver for quite a few different contractors in his career as a driver. And EJ, I want to start with one of the biggest things that we hear from both contractors and from drivers, and that's narrowing in on payment. How do you get paid driving your routes? Is it per day? Is it per hour? Is it per stop?
So I get paid per day, and then over a certain amount of stops, you get paid. There's a lot of different contractors, as you mentioned, that pay differently. We have one contractor in our building that pays hourly. There are some that have, for example, like a Delaware area that is really condensed and tight, that will pay no flat fee, but just pay you per stop and then pay you per box. Some contractors will give you additional money for working 6 days. If the building works 7 days, there's additional pay with that. And also safety. You don't get into any accidents or anything. You also get a they call it a safety bonus that some contractors do as well.
And EJ, how many years have you been delivering for FedEx?
I started October of 2003 is when I started, October 2003.
Wow.
What has been, I know you went through a few different types of pay. Has there been one that you preferred? Or does it just make a difference based on the routes you're running? Or how do you decide what works best for you as a driver?
So I started in a very spread out area. It was like the best you could probably do is 17, 20 stops an hour in this spread out country area. And I started, there was no, okay, you do, let's say 80, you do over 80 stops, I'll give you, let's say $1.25 or $1.40, whatever the case may be. And I'll give you a flat fee. It was just a flat fee. And I was on that, before I had kids, I was on that route for about maybe 9 years. Very nice. Love the people out there. I have family that live in this particular area. And just like anything else, you go through life and you have kids and, okay, I want a new car. So naturally you want a more tight area to make more money. So I like the contractors that in the ones I've worked for that have condensed areas that you can do 200, 300 stops a day and put in the volume and make them money so I can make money where I get a flat fee. And then let's say over a certain amount of stops, you get, okay, I'm going to give you this and I'm a driver that likes working 6 days. So I get, the 6 day pay as well. And this particular contractor that I'm currently working for doesn't have any safety, but I'm fine with that. So it's a very tight, nice area. And really, and on Saturdays when I work, I do 2 routes, so the volume, so I'll leave with 230, 260, doing 2 because I want that, it's going to take me a little bit more time to do it, but I want that want that money. So, and it works out for him because then he doesn't have to pay somebody else as well. So it works both ways.
You leave with 260
Stops. Yes.
packages in a
So
day?
as we know, you may have 230. For example, this past Saturday I had 230. I had 315 packages in a 1000 P1000. Yep. I don't want a 1200 because it's too big for the area I do. There's a lot of dead ends. There's you know I don't want to take that risk. So I pack it, and you should see it. It's fun. It's challenging. I like the physical aspect of it. And you really gotta mentally and physically, you really gotta be in the game. But yeah, last Saturday I had 230 and 315 packages.
Dang, that is savage. Great work. That's the most, I mean, in talking to contractors, when they have drivers that are ballers and they just crank things out,
Yes.
it's typically 200 stops.
Oh.
260 is absurd. Great job. So, okay, it sounds like you're more interested now in per stop because you're able to make more money. And then you also said that the contractor that you're working for now has a
Yes.
6-day-a-week bonus. Can you tell us how that works?
So as
what that
far
looks
as
like?
how much I bring, so
Yeah.
so it's $50. I don't know. I can't refer to every contractor, but with this particular one, it's $50. He'll give you for the 6 days. It's $1. Yep.
$50
So when I
on
work
the
Saturday,
sixth
I'm
day?
automatically, okay, I
Okay.
know I'm making 50. So
Yeah.
in the salary per day is 170 per day, and then over
Okay.
a certain amount of stops, I get $1.25. Now every contractor may be different. You know what I mean? So right.
So on a
Sure.
day like last Saturday when it was real heavy for you, how long did it take you to make all those deliveries?
So with now, mind you, I'm down, in a beach area. A lot of people, 4th of July, Friday and Saturday were very long. And you just have to be mindful of people, bikes, children. You really have to pay attention. So it took me, Friday was about 6.5 hours, and I think Saturday was about 7, and that's not counting my time at the building. I get there extremely early. People always make fun of me because I get there too early, but I like you have to be organized. For me, you have to be organized. There are a couple other drivers that get there, right about the same time. We go get fuel, and head to the building and start organizing our trucks.
So when you get in, sorry, Jake, when you
Cool.
when you
So-
get in, I was under the impression
Emily.
that there were
No.
going to be package handlers employed by FedEx at the terminal to load the truck for you. Do they have it loaded for you and then you just organize it the way you like it, or do you actually have to put packages on your truck?
So there are load sides. Most of the load sides are ground. We are still the technical part of the background of the ground and HD and express. That part I'm not 100% familiar with. I know some buildings, have all three in the building. We are still split where ground doesn't work or run on Saturdays. It's just HD. And so the load side is just a ground in our building. They do. Most of the HD do not get loaded. You load them, they put them in cages and you load them yourself. We just started getting express last week in our building.
So, okay, so you just started getting express and that's now combined. However, in your building, home delivery and
No.
ground is not combined yet? Oh, wow.
And-
Okay.
And you
Must be one of the last
and
terminals
you know
in the
what?
country that hasn't
It
combined.
also could, because we do have some ground routes down for like businesses and stuff. it could be, and they're seasonal. So they could, I don't know, on like the drone system, you can split it. So maybe that's what they're doing as well. So I don't want to, say something that I just know in my truck, I don't do, I don't do any ground. It's all HD. And we just, like I said, we have smart posts and we just started getting express, today. Or excuse me, last week. I had a lot today for express.
So because you're HD,
Yes, yes.
you are
I could
loading
have
your
my
own
truck
truck.
looted, but I prefer to do it myself because there are some drivers that do have HD and ground, and they get their trucks loaded. So they do have package handlers, and they take care of that for you. Yes.
So, EJ, I have to ask, doing what you do every day, 6 days a week, I should say, not every day, but 6 days a week, that is hard work. And you're doing a ton of stops and a ton of packages. How on earth have you kept your body healthy to do this for so many years?
So a lot a lot of a lot of it has to do with everybody's different. Like, for example, my wife does accounting, and she likes um the the math or the mental strain of her job. She's not a physical. She hates the heat. She has the, she's not, she's just different. Me, I've always been an athlete. I played football. In high school, I played soccer for probably the longest time. I've always liked the physical aspect of it. And that's what kind of drew me to this. You're constantly on the go. And I also take care of myself. I don't eat out. Um, I've never been to Wendy's, McDonald's. Like, I also, I don't drink soda. So that, I'm a huge coffee and water and Arizona iced tea drinker. Yeah, I just take care of myself. Diabetes runs heavy in my family. And so far I'm 41. I'm actually the oldest driver that with the contractor. The youngest or the closest one to me is my BC. He's 32. So I'm 41. Um, but just the physical aspect of it. I mean, don't get me wrong. Everybody has rough days. I have bad days. You don't. If I don't hit my numbers, my wife automatically knows when I get home. I had a bad day. But I just like it. Now that I have kids, that's my fire in me. That is my rock. My wife stays home most of the time. It is exhausting. My body. I'm not gonna make it sound beautiful. I mean, there are bad days where my body just aches, man, and I just mentally, I wake up sometimes Saturday, I'm like, man, I just do not want to go in, but I do because I have to provide for my family. I have two young, beautiful daughters. Um, you know, my 5 year old really is special. Both of them are special to me, but my 5 year old's really, she is diagnosed with autism, so they really keep me motivated and going, and that's, for me, that's my motivation.
That's awesome. That makes a ton of sense. And with the physical aspect or other aspects as well, is there anything that the contractor that you're working for, and you've worked for quite a few now at this point, does to make a difference in
You
helping
you
with
it,
that motivation?
it's like I was telling one of them that just started a couple of years ago, and there were some things that were said to another driver that I felt could have been worded differently. You have to be like a therapist with some drivers, and you really have to know how to talk to them. Um, and that part of it, I've worked for some amazing. There's not one contractor that I want to go work for. Like, if they were to call me, you know, hey, can you help me out? I would do anything for him. And you really it's like a marriage. You really have to work and click together. And unfortunately, I've been very lucky to work for some amazing people and some really good drivers. And I have some really good friends. Um, that I still work for as far as drivers and owners. They're really special. It's like a family. I mean, and you have to be successful. You want to make sure that your service percentages are where they need to be, so nobody comes after you. You want to do good. So that's that's where that's at.
And EJ, you had said, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think when we were emailing before this, you had mentioned that you were a BC for several years as well. Is that correct? Oh, you
No,
were
no, no,
not.
no, no.
Okay.
I was never. No, no. I was asked for years to be one, and um I just like being a
Yeah.
driver. You know, most, I don't want to mislead anybody, but most of the BCs that I know, the phone calls and everything, and the 24 hours, 7 days a week or 6 days a week, phone calls, and making sure that's just not me. So I just want to. It's just something I'm not interested in.
Logistical question. What kind
I
of shoes do you
I
wear?
wear
Are you wearing running shoes,
Under Armour
boots?
shoes, running shoes. That is my.
Oh,
I
yeah?
went through a lot of. I'm more of an Adidas person. That is where I'm at. I went through a lot of shoes, and the one that I'm most comfortable with is Under Armour. Is not Under Armour. Yeah, right? Am I saying that
Yeah.
right? Yeah, yeah, that's the company I'm thinking. Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
that's
Under Armour? Yeah.
the shoe that black. I'm old school.
I love it.
Has to be black. So that's the shoe
Is it there?
that's my go-to shoe. When it snows, I'll I don't have a pair of boots that I really like. I'll buy anything, but when it comes to shoes, even in the rain or anything, that's my go-to. And they're on Amazon, so I can get them next day. So
Do you wear a step tracker to know how many steps you take in a day?
I do. I actually got a brand new Apple Watch. Most of well, I can't look it up on my phone. I think it's I think it's like 10 to 15, 10 to 15,000. Yeah, 10 to 15,000 steps a day. Yep.
You want some good shoes for that.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah, and
That's
every
incredible.
3-4 months,
Yeah,
you,
absolutely.
you have to. I mean, you only have two pair of feet, and you're on them all day. You have to you have to get shoes. I mean, yeah, every 3 to 4 months I replace them. So they actually have a description where you can. I think everybody knows this by now, where you can have them auto ship, and that's what I have, and you actually get like 15% off, I think, by doing that.
So I'm seeing
Oh
you with
yeah.
your FedEx truck behind you, but I also know that you're at home right now. So you're taking your FedEx truck home and parking it there, and I'm assuming that you
Yes.
drive to the terminal and pick up gas on the way. What does that do? Have you had contractors that have not allowed you to take your truck home? And does that make a difference
I
with
have
your
not,
mentality?
and there are some that do for whatever reason, and that's cool. But I have not. I've been lucky towards that. I think for me, when I look in my backyard, um, seeing it there, you know, security, job security, I comes to mind. Um, what's the other one? Pride. Something. It's like a connection. And I don't know if that's silly me thinking that, but I do like it. When the contractor I'm with, he knows I can account on, for me being there. And I appreciate it because it's respect. He knows he can rely on me. So and I do that.
Have you noticed I've heard a lot that the large packages are getting a little bit out of control with FedEx. You're delivering gazebos and huge chewy orders and all kinds of crazy heavy stuff. Has that impacted your ability to earn in the fact that you get paid, partly per stop and you've got to do more work for the same routes?
So, um, yeah, so over the last couple of years, I actually just went, I don't know, a couple years ago and bought up until recently. Um, it seems like yesterday, but I think it's been a while that I've had it. I actually bought a hand truck. And yes, they are, for whatever reason, they are getting bigger. Um, is it more challenging? Yes, because it takes up space. But it's part of, I mean, moving forward is one of the mottos that FedEx lives by, and we just have to adjust. Just like back in the day, we had paper maps, and that's what we would use, and we had I forget what we called them, but they were like heavy. The pads that we used back then, I mean, they were so heavy and bulky. I mean, you could knock somebody out with that. And now we have the zebra scanners, which I like. The technology part of it. From me, I used to have a paper map. It's gotten so much better, and there's ground cloud now for newer people that need it, and B-Track also has their system. I've used both of them just to see how they are, and I like both of them. I still use the Zebra map, on my scanner, um, just to make sure I hit everything. But I like all the technology part of it. It's just gotten better and easier, in my opinion, for any driver, to go out there and to do what you got to do, because it's right there. It's right in front of you. Um, but yeah, the packages have, you know, I I don't know in the time frame, but it has, you know, but it's part of the nature. It's part of the business. There's always going to be change, and we have to, as drivers, we have to, learn to adapt to change.
EJ, do you feel like a contractor having updated technology like Ground Cloud or one of those other platforms helps with driver
Um,
retention?
yeah, I think so. Um, it does. It also helps. I think, do I don't want to belittle any of the platforms out there, but when you have the Zebra scanner, it has everything on there for you, and it's right there. But I can understand somebody having an iPad or something, on their dash or something, or wherever the guys have it at. That it's a little bit bigger, and you can see a little bit wider. But it's the same information that's in your scanner. It's going to plot the same, and you know, I but I think, for newer people, a lot of the newer guys that we have, or seasonal people that we have, use some type of platform. And I think it's all, the technical part of it, looking back, I get so frustrated with myself because, at that time, looking back, I didn't adapt to change very well. But now I have a clearer head and understanding, and you mature and grow within the company or contractor that you have. And now I understand it, and I can see why. But I think it's very helpful, all of it.
For technology, do you feel the same way about the technology that's been added to the trucks for safety as far as like the blind spot cameras, backup sensors, things like that too?
So I think the whole camera system, the camera that we have on the dash that looks at you in front of you, we had several accidents
Mm.
that last week. 4th of July, everybody's out. Several accidents. Some of them, the driver's fault, some of them not. Looking back when we first were getting everything, I'm like, "Oh, man, here we go. They wanna try to get," in my opinion, at that time, in that moment, I was like, "Man, they're gonna try to get rid of everybody. I've been here forever. What am I gonna do?" My anxiety started kicking in. Now, I think they're all great. I think every truck should have them. In the rain, The 360 cameras have saved me so many times. I have never had an accident. I've never had a claim. I've never, I've been, even in my personal vehicles, never had an accident. But I wish I had the 360 on my car. They are neat. I like them. I think every truck should have them. Um, and I understand for us as drivers and for FedEx and insurance, I can understand why, you know, you need them and how important they are in making sure that they work. Mine was not. It was something something with it was not working, and I brought it to my owner's attention immediately, and he had it fixed that day. So they're very important. Um, I like the fact also. I may be jumping the gun because this may be a question, but I like the fact also that a lot of the contractors have mechanics on site. I love that because I am very particular about my tires. I want new tires. So anytime, I go to my owner and I say, "Hey, I need two front tires," they're done that day. So, while we're loading up or waiting or whatever the case may be, I think that's amazing. I like that. Oil changes, anything that we need, he's on it. So because that's my office.
That's really interesting. That's something that I haven't even thought of, EJ. So, are you more likely to go and work for a contractor that
That would
has a
be
mechanic on
that would
site?
be a huge factor for me. If a contractor did not have one, I'd have to think about that. A lot of trucks nowadays, um, most of all the contractors have newer trucks. There aren't too many that I've seen that are look like they're gonna fall apart. But yes, that would be a huge factor for me is having a mechanic, because going to a shop or something, or having a truck out of commission, that's just for business. That's just not good business for me. My personal opinion.
That's great. Do you do your own pre-trip inspection before you leave in the morning?
Yes,
Can you tell us about that? What do
yes,
you
and
do? What do you
and,
look
and
at?
so I look at everything. I do two a day. I look at the tires. I look at the lights. I'm very particular about lights. My mirrors. I adjust my mirrors myself because there's a particular way that I want them. Um, Tires, window wipers. And the mechanic has all this in his van. Anything that we could possibly need, he has. Any cracked. I had crazy story. I was driving down this country road and a buzzard came out of nowhere. And it was on camera and I did absolutely nothing wrong. I wasn't speeding or anything. Hit my windshield
Oh,
on my way home. And I'm like, "Oh my goodness." And he had um my owner at the time, he had somebody come out and fix the windshield. But there's a lot of other things, everything that you need inside lights, just in case, you do have a breakdown, all the liquids in the truck, those are things that, that I look for, particularly the tires. That's my biggest thing that I keep track of is the tires. I don't like, even if they're a little bit, I'm like, change it. And they do, because I'm very particular about the tires.
Speaking of wild animal encounters, is there any way that you handle dogs? Do you mark a house with a dog? Do you mark it in some sort of system that lets other drivers know that there's an unfriendly
So
dog?
I have
What do you
noticed
do?
you make a lot of friends in this business. I have noticed on mailboxes, I can't say for everybody, on some mailboxes, the post office uses an orange and yellow sticker. A yellow, now I could be wrong. There is a difference. They both mean something. Obviously, there's a dog or something, but I think the orange one, I could be wrong. The orange one means that there's a dog at the next house, and the yellow one means that there's a dog at that at that house. They both mean something in a post office. I noticed it in this one area I was doing down in the area that I'm at now. There's a thank God there's a leash law that was put into place, so I don't have to worry about any of that anymore. But in the country where there isn't one, where I was for years, I you know, you just look for markings. I mean, to me, it just comes second nature. Where okay, I see yellow stain on the grass. Dog toys. Any kind of any kind of sign of a dog. I just um, use caution. Thank God that's another one. I've never been bit. I've been chased. I don't recommend anybody running, but I have done that. I'm pretty fast, and I've never been bit, but I've come very close, very close. The ones that I dislike the most are German Shepherds and chocolate labs. I have a black lab, but chocolate labs. Those are the two ones that, to me, my opinion, that I've come across that are most aggressive, and those are the ones that I've run from. But yeah, just I'm not familiar with the house, or I see the sign for the electric fence, wireless electric, the fence, or dog sign. So those are the signs that that I look for, that I just try to be cautious if I'm not familiar with that area. But now, like I said, I love it, man, because right now I'm in a city where there's a college, so I'll never have to, unless one gets loose, I'll never have to worry about that.
So last week I know was the 4th of July, so that was totally different. In an urban area like you are, people, you know, bikes, things like that are gonna be a challenge. What would you say on a daily basis, not specifically a holiday, on a daily basis, what's your biggest challenge on your route?
Um, People, watching out for kids. Um, that's there's a lot of crosswalks in my area, or the area that I'm in. Bicycles. So those are the biggest challenges. Because no driver wants to have you know the worst thing possible happen, and I just try to be mindful. And if, like I said, the 360 camera, I have two different cameras, because there's the old backup camera like you would have in your car. I have that set on my radio. So I have that one. Then I have the 360 where I have all three cameras on the screen. And mine's a pretty nice screen size. So I have them, and I look at that, and of course, I check my mirrors. So those are, I have them set. So I have all the sides of the views of my truck. There's no blinds, pretty much there's no blind spots. But I just use that, just making sure, I beat my horn if I'm backing up. When I pull out, I make sure it's clear. I even beat my horn. I don't have to, the houses are 10 feet from the street, so I don't have to worry about driveways. But back in the day when was in a spread out area, I'd always beat my horn, because you never know. I mean, there could be kids in a bush or something, or behind a tree. See them if I have to pull in. So those are the things, the biggest struggles that I've, besides the weather, the obvious. Those are the biggest struggles that I've come across.
This is actually a question that a FedEx contractor asked me to ask you when I told him that we were interviewing a driver today. And his question was, is there anything that FedEx corporate can do to help drivers from the top down, to help drivers that are driving for FedEx contractors?
Um, I I can't, off the top of my head. I can't think of anything. You know, I can't think of anything that I think, you know what? There was something. There used to be um there used to be driver that it was a driver like before I was hired, you would go out on the road and they would make sure that, okay, you're not going to get into an accident. As far as training for driving, because I could take somebody out and say, okay, you're gonna ride with me, show them the ropes, do this. Everybody works differently. I mean, some people I do 50 stops an hour sometimes. Not every day, but sometimes that's what I do. This past Friday and Saturday I didn't because the people, and at that point I'm like, I just want to get home safe. So everybody, not that part of it, because I feel like as far as the scanner, the stops and all that, everything's set up for you. If you have a good trainer, everything's set up for you. But the driving part of it, like I said, we had several accidents. I think it was 6 last week. The driving part, I think there should be more precautious or not, maybe not a class, um, because there are other delivery companies that I'm not trying to bash anybody, but they do have a course you have to go through. And there used to be you would go out, they go, okay, park over here, parallel park, go through these cones. They don't do any of that anymore. And for me, if I was a owner or a BC or something, I would take them out. Now I don't know if the contractors individually do something. From my experience, just coming from me, I haven't seen anything. And I think that could help, because then the contractor saving money, insurance, liability. But they did away with that. It was years ago, before COVID, before 2020. And for whatever reason, I mean, there was a period where we, just like any place else, that we were struggling for people. And nobody wanted. I mean, it was the worst year I can think of was the 2020. It was so bad. And then now it's I have nurses in my family. That's everywhere. But it was so bad. And ever since then, we haven't been able, to, and maybe that's why, I don't know. But if I could change one thing, and I'm not even, a manager or a owner, that would be one thing that I would like to see happen or bring back, because they used to have it. I went, I did it. So
That's really interesting. Do you feel, as the one with the most experience on your team, do you feel like it negatively impacts you to have new drivers coming in without that training?
yes, because then the senior drivers or the people that have been there longer get called upon to help out and have longer days, um, and and potentially burn you out. Um, and not only does, it costs, I don't know what the cost factor is in the back part of it, but I'm sure it costs contractors time, money to bring somebody in, training, and then for them to either quit or not make it because they're overwhelmed or they get into an accident. I feel like that, costs a lot of money. And I would hate my owner or somebody I'm with struggle. And because then you're talking about service, your service percentages, not making service. I think about that. So like last week, when we had a lot of things happen, and things happen, you know I it doesn't it impacts me, but in my head, I don't have to deal with it. But I still dealt with it because it was in my head. I'm with this owner, and I'm like, man, I don't want to see him go through this. And we're still trying to play cleanup and catch up, and I don't want to see that happen. So you know, especially to somebody that I've been with for a long time. So that part of it, it impacts the business. So.
EJ, for you, what's the number one thing that a contractor can do to help keep their drivers the happiest and feel the most valued as possible? Is it pay? Is it providing insurance? Is it having new trucks?
Um,
What would you say?
I'm so used to having my own insurance and taking time off when I need to take time off. I it doesn't even for me, and I have children. It doesn't even phase me. It doesn't. We have state insurance. That's good. Um, for me, being valued. Um, you know, saying thank you for you know my owner I'm with now every Monday. I don't know how you did it. How'd you do 260? How'd you do 230? You're the best in the building, and you could ask him. Um, so that part of it, for me is very important to me. I can't speak for everybody. I mean, hey, I would love a brand new truck, but I know in reality that's not reality. Having more money, that's not reality. Because there has to be some type of point where the contractor is making money, and I'm making a little bread. So that's why I'm in a tighter area. That's why I was like, Saturday I want 2 routes. Because you gotta, not everybody thinks like that. And I've had people say, go to somebody. I've seen it. I want more money or I'm walking out. It's happened. For me, being valued. I want to be valued. I don't want balloons and cake. But I just, thank you for all you do. That's what I like. But in reality, the other things, that's just, you're living in fantasy land. You know what I mean? You got to work a little bit, and that's exactly what I'm doing and what I have done. And there's routes. Um, I was with a contractor. The gentleman that I was with the longest always told me there's always a route for somebody, because at that time I was happy with the spread out route, but I'm like, life changes, this, that. And he was able to hook me up with a tighter route. So, if you want more money, my suggestion to anybody would be, okay, well, you got to find that route, or something close to it, because, the reality is, you know, you can't be in fantasy land. You gotta think reality and be like, okay, this is how it is, and this is how it is. I mean, you know, so that mentality it's hard. Don't get me wrong, but that mentality I've always tried to keep in my head.
That's a great attitude. I love that. Is there anything
I
Go ahead, sorry.
no, not every day is like that. Don't get me wrong. I have my bad days, and I'm like, oh man, it's 9:30 or 10 o'clock. We're not leaving yet. What the heck's going on? And you get frustrated, and you get to your first stop. Mind you, you know, we're not condensed like maybe other states are, and we drive an hour to our first stop. So I'm getting to my first stop 11:30, 12 o'clock. Am I happy? No, but things happen, and it doesn't happen all the time. It's hard. Believe me, it's hard. I tell some of the newer guys, listen, you just got to take it and go, and do the best you can. And that's what I do. And so not every day am I like that.
That's fair. I don't think anybody can be. Oh, it seems like a lot of that mindset and attitude has to have come with, experience and wisdom that you've gained. Is there a tip that you would tell, let's see, if you were going to go back and tell young EJ something important, something that would have helped you years ago, are there any tips that you would have wish you would have given yourself?
To stay calm.
Yeah.
Don't be a hothead. Um, that's what I would have done. I'm very, I've had people ask me, why don't you go here? Why don't you go there? I'm very content, um, where I'm at, the path I've chose. But those would probably be the two. Those come right to mind. Stay calm. Don't be a hothead. Because sometimes the Irish temper comes out, and that's not always the best. The best. So that's what I would say to myself back then. Be patient. So
That's amazing. So EJ, we are we're approaching our time mark, but I wanted to give you the platform. Is there, since you reached out to us to be on, is there anything in particular that you wanted to touch on that we haven't already
No,
gone
I think
through?
no, I think that's everything. You know, any new driver that's listening, um, you know, sometimes it's 115. I've seen it 130 degrees in the back of these trucks. I've lost some good friends. Seriously, I've lost some good friends. Um, you gotta stay hydrated. You have to take care of yourself. Um, there's, we all have people that we need to be there for, and you got to drink. You got to stay hydrated. Um, if you need a break, take a break. So those are the biggest things that I tell new people. And you know, it's hot out there. You got to take your time. You have to take care of yourself. Otherwise, not good things happen.
Yeah, that is excellent advice, and, I think everybody could use a little self-care, but you guys work hard, and that's that's important to remember, so
Yeah,
thank you for sharing that. We did
and
Go ahead.
I really appreciate being on. You guys are awesome. I've listened to every podcast. Somehow it came up on my Instagram, and I appreciate you guys for having me on. And being the first driver.
Yes, thank you so
I
much.
was so excited.
Well, we really appreciate it. We modified our 3 to thrive a little bit since you are a driver. So if it's okay, are you ready, Jake? Should we dive in? All right. EJ, what was one
Let's
of the
do it.
most worthwhile investments that your contractor or any contractor that you've worked for has made that has made a difference in drivers' mentality?
um, getting new trucks. There was a period where I worked for a contractor that you know he was able to get several new trucks, and they are nice when you get a new truck. Um, and the technology part of it, having we touched on that, having all the 360 cameras, everything, brand new scanners, iPads. Some of the contractors, they get that. So all that stuff. There's probably a list and list I could go on and on. But those ones, those are the ones that you know impact a driver, and sense of pride kicks in, and all that.
That's awesome. That totally makes sense. The second question, this one is actually, we left the same. Oftentimes, failure in business is the greatest teacher. Do you have a favorite failure,
Missed
and what did you
deliveries.
learn from it?
I've had my share of missed deliveries, and for the most part, I like to say that I catch them. But making sure that you know everything matches up with the address and where I'm at, and everything. Um, I've learned from that. Making sure when you go into the zebra and you go into a stop, if you hit details, I go into details first. I look at the SIN number of what not the address, but the SIN number. Let's say 2087, and I match it up. Um, if you hit a different package, it'll tell you wrong package. Or I forget what it says, but it'll yell at you. So that when we got the new scanners, that is something I picked up on, and I do, and I have to say that it's helped me be more efficient and not get or not do missed deliveries. But that's the biggest one.
And our last question, what is your favorite part about being a FedEx driver?
The physical aspect of it, and pride. We just being part of the team, being part of the brotherhood. That those are the biggest. That's the biggest thing. Um, I'm proud in the direction that I've taken. I like it, and you know, I don't plan on going anywhere else.
You should be proud.
Dang, you really should be. If I ever have a FedEx contract, which I don't think I will, but if I do, I'm 100% stealing you. 260 stops with your attitude.
I've had
dude,
I've had
you're-
contractors come
you're
in,
an
and,
animal.
yeah, I need 6 more of you, and I'm like, I don't know if you want that.
Oh, I assure you they do.
I've had several contractors, say that.
Yeah,
Yes.
you seem like an absolute dream employee. You care about the numbers. You have pride in your job. You're trustworthy. You want to work 6 days a week. Get out. You are amazing.
Get out.
Guys, thank you for raising your hand.
And thank you
Oh,
so much for
I-
being our first driver.
Yep, you all are amazing. I appreciate it. I appreciate the time that we spent together.
All right. Thank you.
Routing for Success is brought to you by AP Equipment Financing. In today's competitive market, it is essential to acquire the right trucks at a fair price and finance them in a way that makes sense for your business. Leveraging their extensive network of truck and van suppliers, the experts at AP Equipment Financing will help you locate the best deals on step vans, cutaways, panel vans, and more. Deliver them straight to your facility and finance them with low monthly installment options. Click the link in the description or visit apfinancing.com for more information. Routing for Success is an independent production of AP Equipment Financing and is in no way affiliated with or endorsed by FedEx Corporation, FedEx Ground, Amazon, or any other logistics company discussed herein. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Routing for Success.